Hi, I'm Neil, and on most Sunday mornings you would find me at Trinity Presbyterian in Cloughey, um, where I'm a regular attender and part of the regular praise team. If somebody had told me a few years ago that Cloughey Presbyterian would be my home church, and somewhere that I was preparing to take up full membership of, I would have found that very hard to believe. So I'd like to share with you briefly just how that came about, and more importantly, my belief that God always has a plan and has a purpose for our lives. And in fact, that outcome might not be at all what we would have imagined. Around 5 years or so ago, as a family, we found ourselves in the position of seeking for a new church to become a part of. And I actually thought that this would be a fairly simple and brief project. To put it like that, how hard could it be? There are churches everywhere in this part of the world, and that's a good thing. But in fact, I was totally wrong. It was not anywhere nearly as easy as I would have imagined. We spent probably the next 2 years driving to various churches most Sundays, trying not to exceed maybe 15 or 20 miles from home, up and down the peninsula, trying to find the right church. And I couldn't criticise any of these churches. There was nothing wrong with any of them. In fact, we liked all of them. Some of them we really liked and attended on many occasions. But at the same time, none of them, for whatever reason, quite felt as if they were where God wanted us to be. To put it very simply, we just weren't settled. For any believer to be in that state of limbo as far as a home church concerned is not a good thing. It's far from ideal. To have no church roots, to have no church family, no regular fellowship, no minister, no teaching, no pastoral care, none of these things a Christian should be without, if it's at all possible. And during that time, I know that I grew cold and disinterested. After almost about 2 years, Karen mentioned to me that she would like to try the church in Cloughey, on the suggestion of a friend. And we didn't know that there had been changes take place, that the church had affiliated with Grey Abbey. My only connection to the Cloughey church was the GB. That's where our 3 girls had all gone to GB, and perhaps once a year I would have went along to the obligatory enrolment service or GB display, but for whatever reason it just wasn't a church that I had considered attending, and even at the suggestion I just wasn't overly interested. As it turned out, I wasn't able to go that weekend, and Karen went along anyway. She came back with a very good report about it and was keen that we both return the following week. We did both return the following week, and putting it again very simply, we've been doing that ever since. Quite quickly that feeling of being unsettled and restless simply disappeared. There is no obvious reason why this church was in some way better than any others, and it wasn't a case of being better. It was simply a case of being in the place where God would have us to be, and knowing it, and when that happened, any unsettled feelings just disappeared. I do believe God is in sovereign control of our lives and will always bring us to the place where He wants us to be, and He'll do so at the time of His choosing. Having been heavily involved in the musical work in our previous church for some 13 years, there really was no plan or thought in my head to go down that road again. I felt as if I had done my stint at that particular task, and getting involved in the music just wasn't on my agenda. However, again, I was wrong, and as the months developed, it became clear that there was a need for a praise team to be formed in the Cloughey church, and I found that I was very happy to get involved. And again, I believe God had a plan for that, which I certainly wasn't expecting. Just in finishing, there's a few words in Matthew's Gospel that spoke to me about 30 years ago when I was in my early 20s, and these words are also applicable to the thoughts I've just shared. Growing up, I had always been involved in church. I'd always gone to Sunday school, to Bible class, the boys' brigade. Church was normal for me, but as I got a little bit older and became a young adult, I realised that my Christianity had no life. It didn't really mean anything. Now, looking back now, I can see that what I had was the head knowledge. I had the understanding, but I had never applied that to my own life. I didn't have any heart knowledge. So at that time, with God's help, I took that step of faith that had been lacking. The words of Matthew 7, chapter 7, verse 7 are very simple and they're very well known. Seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be opened.